Aloha and welcome back to the Kauai Real Estate Podcast. This is Jamie Friedman, your Kauai Real Estate agent. And today we're going to have another episode in the Purchase Contract series where I'm going to discuss a contingency or contingencies in the purchase contract. I'm using the November 2023 release of the purchase contract. We generally have a new one this time of year. We don't have it yet, so we'll continue reviewing that contract. We're going to talk about the J-1 General Inspection of Property Contingency. And while I'm not going to read it, I am going to make sure that there are certain parts of it you're aware of. But the overall contingency is that the buyer has the right at their sole cost to either inspect, have a professional inspect, or have some sort of representative inspect the property, inspect both the things inside property, what's included in the sale, like the fixtures and appliances, but also to inspect any public records or information regarding the property as described in the MLS or in the purchase contract, what's included, what's not included. All these inspections have to be done within a specific time period. On the mainland, most contracts that I've run into call this a due diligence period. We call it a J-1 inspection period. There's not much of a difference. So typically this section in the contract is negotiable in terms of its time frame, but most contracts have it 14 to 15 days expiring, 14 to 15 days after the acceptance date. That means that all of your inspections have to be done before that time period expires. And here's something that agents may forget to tell you. Silence is acceptance. What that means is we have contingencies in our contract that state if the buyer fails to make an election in writing to terminate the purchase contract within that time period, then the buyer has waived the contingency. All our contingencies, unless stated otherwise in the contract, expire at 11:59 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time on the date of expiration. So if you have a 15-day inspection period, on the 15th day at 11:59 p.m., that contingency expires. What this means is you want to get your inspections done early enough that you have time to review them. And you also have time to negotiate or discuss them with the seller if that's applicable. You may be buying a property as is, or you may be asking for repairs. You may be asking for a price reduction. By the way, just to circle back, if you are buying a property as is, that does not eliminate your right to ask for anything. Ask for anything. Nothing stops that. It's just the seller is obviously indicated to you early on, if you're buying it as is, that they're not interested in doing additional repairs. At any rate, during this time frame, you can schedule professional home inspectors, a septic inspection if you're buying a house, mold inspections. Generally, I recommend that my clients get the general home inspection and see what the results are to determine what additional inspections they would like. But again, this J-1 contingency period is the time frame in which you get all of these inspections done. You review the results and you decide if you want to move forward. And part of deciding if you want to move forward is possibly negotiating with the seller for the seller to complete repairs, for the seller to offer a credit at closing, or for the seller to reduce the purchase price. Now, the interesting thing about our purchase contracts, which may or may not be true in other areas, is asking is not an opening for the seller to cancel. So in our contracts, a seller can only cancel if the buyer fails to perform. The seller can't just willy-nilly cancel. So you're not spending all this money on inspections and having the seller pull the rug out from under you. But you can ask for these things. If the seller has not responded by the end of your J-1 inspection period, you have this time frame in which you do your inspections. You decide what you want. You want to move forward. You don't want to move forward. You'll move forward if there's a price change, a price reduction, a credit, or a repair. You ask the seller for those elements, and if the seller responds accordingly. If the seller has not responded prior to the expiration of this contingency, your contingency is not extended. So you need to be sure to ask for these things in a time frame that allows the seller to respond. And if the seller doesn't respond, allows you the opportunity to still cancel if you don't want to move forward with that, if the seller is not willing to do any of the things you've requested. So essentially, you're going to inspect every element of the property that is of concern or a general element of the property and make sure that you're making a purchase that you're comfortable with and happy with. That's about it. Pretty simple contingency. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My name is Jamie Friedman. I'm a Kauai real estate agent. I love talking about Kauai real estate and purchase contract, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Mahalo for listening.